Hi and welcome to JMC Jam Season 3 Episode 10, and it's the right time of year to be celebrating our Hearst Awardee. So this year we are giving our Hearst Award for solid work done in respect of First Amendment rights to Ann Telnaes, who is here with us, and she was here with us yesterday as well. Ann is a multiple award-winning editorial political cartoonist who has had a tumultuous year, let's just say. And I'm really glad that you're here, Ann, with us today, and everything that you did yesterday to the point where you've had to have some Altoids so that, you know, you
losing my voice a little bit, so
yeah.
Sorry, it's a little lower.
Ann, tell us a bit about what's been going on this year with you, first of all.
Oh, nothing. No, like you said, it was a year that still is going on. I didn't plan this, obviously, but it has been a very interesting ride. I had been working for the Washington Post for over 16 years and had no intention upon leaving it, you know, on my own anyway. And I found myself in the position in December of 2024 of having to deal with a cartoon that was rejected, a cartoon idea, a rough. Now, editing is I'm very familiar with editing. It wasn't a typical editing issue. It wasn't about an image that might have been problematic. It wasn't that the cartoon wasn't clear. But this editor just said no. And the reason he said no to it was the topic, was the subject matter. And in all my years of working for the Post, I had always chosen my topic. So that was a new thing for me, and I had to make a decision at that point whether to continue or not.
Yeah, yeah. And you stepped down.
I did. I decided fairly quickly that was a line that I couldn't cross. So I had a long talk with my editorial page editor who made the call, and after the conversation, I told him I couldn't continue in that capacity because I felt that I needed to adhere to my principles.
Yeah,
as a cartoonist.
Of course. And I mean, what was being questioned there were the fundamentals of press freedom and freedom of expression, right?
Right.
Do you think that there's an issue with owners of the media who maybe sway influence in terms of the direction that the outlet's going to take?
Well, I think the problem is a lot of these large media companies, like the Washington Post, are owned by billionaires, and billionaires have business interests. And, you know, a lot of people have said to me, well, you know, you work for a business, so the business person can make these decisions. And I'm like, sure, I understand that, but this is a newspaper. This is the free press. If you own a newspaper or a media company, a news media company, you have an obligation in a democracy to protect that free press. And this isn't happening. Yeah. You know, the business interests are the ones that are winning out. Yeah. So it's a problem.
Yeah, and we're seeing this more and more, you know, across the media landscape. Ownership brings those issues to light. And then we did see some other personnel changes, didn't we, over this year after you left?
Oh, at the Post?
At the Post?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of people left.
Yeah.
Mostly in the opinions section, because that completely got overturned and changed a different direction. But also from the news side, because you know, even though I don't have any contact with the news side, they're very separate from the opinions. You know, I had heard issues there too, and people decided to leave. You know, so it's not just me. I mean, there was the LA Times, I think she was called an opinions editor, who left as well in October. So this is 2 months before me, because that owner of the LA Times didn't want them to do so many Trump pieces and didn't want to do an endorsement, a presidential endorsement, like the Post also did not do. Yeah. And she left as well. So it's, you know, I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I know, but you're the only one to have won a second Pulitzer on, you know, in that time, right?
Right,
Which is great.
That was a very nice surprise. I was very grateful to read the juror's statement, because in each category, the jurors, after they make their decision, will write why that person should get it. And they mentioned the fact that I had worked for 16 years at the organization, and I took a stand, and I thought, you know, great.
And I think that's what this award, our Hearst Award, is all about, really. It's about, and this is why, you know, we invited you to the award, was because that stand matters so much, you know, and as an example to future journalists, I think it's important for them to see that your values are important and that you should stick by them.
Yes, yes. This is not the business to be in if you don't have values and principles and ethical guidelines. You should be in something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And you spent some time with our students.
Yes, they were great.
Yeah, so, I mean, you've had some journalism students and some illustration students working with you. What's your overall feel? Are these guys going to be ready for this world?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've taught a class myself, and I'm always inspired whenever I'm around students, because I can remember that feeling of hope and expectation and wanting to do a good job. And I think that's what I saw, and I saw a lot of talent, in the illustration field. And yeah, it's inspiring. It gives you hope, frankly. You know, I deal with the regular politics stuff and adults all the time, and you know, to see young people that are engaged and know what's going on and care to do a good job, that's inspiring and hopeful.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in the field of journalism, you know, where it has evolved so much to the point where, you know, everybody can be a journalist, right? I'm being facetious, but you know, that's the idea, is that, like, so if you have an opinion, you post it, and it becomes, you know, it can spread or it doesn't go anywhere, and you can be recording a video and suddenly, you know, you've captured the news and so on. So to actually sort of forge a path in this career, following those rules and those guidelines and abiding by them is super important still.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have responsibilities. I mean, even editorial cartoonists have responsibility. We have a responsibility to know our subject matter, have a responsibility to do our homework, you know, and then we ultimately are opinion editors, but we still have a responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, we just don't throw stuff out there.
No, that's true. And I mean, let's just take a little step back and maybe talk about how you got here to this position, right? Because you weren't always an editorial cartoonist.
No, I wasn't. I'm very embarrassed to say I wasn't interested in the news or read a newspaper until my later 20s. I actually wanted to become a character animator, and I did. I went to California Institute of the Arts, and I was going to become, I learned the Disney style of animation. At the time, it was pre-computer, so we were doing everything by hand. And, you know, it was great. I loved it, because I loved to draw. That was my first love. But, you know, a couple things happened that, you know, you don't plan for these things again.
Yeah.
And I, you know, in 1989, I watched the Tiananmen Square massacre on television, which was a horrendous thing to watch because many, many people died. They were mostly young people in China, and they were just asking for democracy. They wanted free speech. And I was affected by that. So I think that kind of awakened me to read the news more, become more involved. Still not changing my direction, but then I watched the Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas hearings, which was the Supreme Court hearings for the still current justice on the Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas. And because it was about a woman accusing Clarence Thomas of sexual harassment when they worked together in government prior to him becoming a justice, I understood that. And a lot of women my age understood that because we had worked in the private sector. We understood what sexual harassment was about. And it was a real big divide, I remember, in the discussion in the United States because I remember my male family members believed him and I believed her. So that made me decide to send out a portfolio, because at the time you just basically sent a physical portfolio to various newspapers. And I didn't know what I was doing, thank God, because there were no women in the field, and I'm not sure I would have tried if I had known how few women there were. But, you know, I was persevered, and I I got published in 1992 for the first time. And then I just was self-syndicated for many years, and then I got picked up by a syndicate. And then I won my first Pulitzer in it was for 2000, but in 2001.
Right. So it was 24 years between one and the other.
Long time.
Yeah, yeah. We picked up other awards along the way. I mean, are awards important?
You know, I'm not just saying that I don't appreciate them. I do. But I also realize that you shouldn't place a lot of importance in them in our business. You don't do this for awards, because if you do, you're going to get disappointed. I mean, every award I've ever won has been a complete surprise.
Yeah.
You know, they're great, but you know, you should just want to do good work, and that's the thing that you have to kind of gauge your career path. Are you enjoying what you're doing? Do you feel like you want to do this every morning? Because if you don't, you shouldn't be in this business. Editorial cartooning is very demanding. It's kind of a 24/7 thing in a way. I mean, I love vacations, but I get a little bit antsy after a few days looking for a newspaper somewhere. So you just have to be dedicated to it, and I am still at this point, even after 24 years.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think it's, if we look at the craft of editorial cartooning for a second, you've always selected your own subject matter that you discuss. Do some editorial cartoonists, are they given a brief, or is it always something that you do because you spotted that flashpoint or that controversial moment or that news story that you feel you want to comment on?
I think it really depends on the newspaper you're working for as well as your editor.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, a small newspaper in a small town, the editor obviously wants you to, you know, to kind of look at what's going on in town. You don't want to do always national. Because I was freelance, I tended to be national, and I also lived in D.C., so I was kind of a national town. But it really depends. Some editors are more hands-on. You know, they kind of like, well, you know, you want to do maybe this topic. But really, editors should feel confident in the professionalism and the ability of their editorial cartoon.
Yeah.
You know, it is a working relationship, but at the same time, they're supposed to be an independent, standalone voice.
Yeah.
So it really depends.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, it's been fascinating. The last couple of days, we had a panel discussion last night with Ward Sutton and Mark Fiore as well, who joined us, and they also joined you on the workshop. And it's just listening to the three of you and your experiences, and you know, it's just it's a really interesting aspect of the journalism business that sometimes we may overlook. You know, we don't do editorial cartooning in our school. We do sports, we do, you know, print, magazine, broadcast. And maybe this is something that we should really focus on a little bit more as well, because as we were talking about last night, you know, satire is so important as a tool, you know, as a weapon that protects democracy. And,
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's something that we will certainly be looking at in the school and developing the curriculum maybe to allow it to happen.
You should, because I mean, editorial cartooning, just the traditional panel, that's not all there is. No. I mean, I call my class visual commentary. That's really what it is. And your students are so used to using online things, a lot of video with drawings in it. They can do long form on print. I think it's a very needed part of any journalism school, because it has been part of our history for many, many years. Yeah. But, you know, don't feel like it has to be just limited to a one panel. Let them use whatever medium they want, but it is visual commentary. Yeah. And as you said, nowadays, satire is more than ever. And satire, we're in a very large umbrella, you know, where what people see online, what they see on television, in print, you know, and as you said, it's a needed tool when democracy is being threatened, because it's really the only thing that the average person can do. Yeah. You know, so yeah, I think you should have that.
I do too. I do too. And it's been great speaking to you, and the conversations have been awesome, quite frankly. And I wish we could carry on. I always say the same thing in our jams. You know, it's like I wish we could carry the conversation on, but we're limited because nobody wants to hear two people prattling on for like more than 15 minutes, right? So, we've got other activities planned for you, of course, before we give you your gong.
My gong?
Your gong. And so, yeah, we'll just call this a wrap. And thank you so much. And
Thank
once
you.
again, from the school and from SJSU, for accepting our award.
Thank
It really
you for
does
having-
mean a lot.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so thank you. Thanks everyone for tuning in and or listening or watching on YouTube or whatever it is that you guys do. We're nearly at the end of this semester, which means nearly the end of season 3. So let's see what we've got in store over the next couple of weeks for you. Thank you once again from JMC Jams.